Buju, Budway Croix, Indigenous, Migizi, Nindodem, Zagagani, Nindujiba. Hello, my name is Kimberly Migishik. I'm the Native American Tourism of Wisconsin Executive Director, and I would like to welcome you to Discover Native Wisconsin.
Hello and welcome to Discover Wisconsin.
Please join us as we learn the importance of agritourism for indigenous territories of the 11 sovereign tribes in the state of Wisconsin. Join us as we head to Forest County Potawatomi and learn how they are revitalizing native food systems.
My name is Stephanie Rosio. I am the aquaponics technician and one of the farm technicians at the Forest County Potawatomi farm. Currently, I grow lettuce mostly in the aquaponics. I also grow tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers. So aquaponics is a mixture of aquaculture, which is growing of fish in captivity, and hydroponics, which is soilless growing. So you combine the two, and nutrient-rich water flows to the plants, and once it flows to the end, it is recycled back to the fish. With this type of system, you can actually grow the produce much faster, and it is very nutrient-rich, and actually the taste and quality is much better. We strive for sustainability. We raise our own livestock. We make our own syrup. We bottle our own honey. We have a storefront on site. We provide products that are indigenously made, eco-friendly, indigenously branded giftware. We do it ourselves and be able to provide that fresh and good quality organic items to not only the tribal community, but to the surrounding communities and the public. Everybody helps everybody here. We are probably the most amazing team I've ever been a part of. So if you're ever passing through Leona, Wisconsin, we are more than welcoming over at the Forest County Potawatomi farm.
Next, we head to the Lumber and Logging Museum to dive into the rich history of the Menominee people and their forest management practices.
David Greeno, I'm the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for the Menominee tribe. The Menominee Reservation was established in 1854, and it was here that Menominee had settled 135,000 acres of forested land that our chief wanted us to live on. The Menominees followed that philosophy of cutting only the dead down timber, but years after that found the value of the trees themselves and started cutting some of the trees for logs and floating them down the Wolf River and other rivers here. The income from sales of those logs, the Menominees were able to provide a living for health, education, and benefits to our people. This is the Menominee Logging Museum. It's a replica of late 1800s logging camp, comprised of 7 log buildings filled with logging artifacts. And this is where the lumberjacks had their meals. Within the bunkhouse is where the lumberjacks slept. Saw filer shack. In there we have a number of saws of the logging era. We have the horse barn where the blacksmiths took care of the horses. The blacksmith shop, of course, where the blacksmith made horseshoes and other things. The Menominee Culture Museum, and we have Menominee artifacts representing the culture and history and language of our people. The Menominees are the oldest continuing living residents of the state of Wisconsin, and both of these museums are a representation of that.
Next, we meet up with the rice chief of Mole Lake Sokaogon to learn the cultural significance of wild rice and their cultivation practices.
The rice chief is one of the people that help regulate the lakes when we can harvest. We open up the lakes. We will go out and check the lakes often, and when we feel the rice is ready to pick from, because people will buy it in the green stage to replant and process it themselves.
In our prophecies, what was told to us was that there's going to be a place where there's food that grows on water, and that's why we put our tobacco down and ask for that health and strength and that life that we always ask for. It's partly why we live here today, is because of the abundancy of the wild rice.
Wild rice mainly grows in the mud areas. They'll emerge through the water and sit on the top of the water. And as we're going through the rice, the picker will lean some over and then tap it. And as we're going, they'll get a rhythm. They'll just keep going back and forth on each side of the boat. I think it's really important that we do pass this down for younger generations, because I don't want to see 30, 40 years down the road that nobody's practicing our traditions anymore.
Next, we head to the banks of Lake Superior to meet with the Bad River Tribe and learn the importance of protecting and revitalizing native fisheries.
Ed Leoso, I'm a fisheries technician, fish hatchery foreman here for the Bad River Tribe. It's just what I love to do, be outdoors. I like walleye, love walleye. That's one of the things we do here at the fish hatchery. We spawn the walleye and we hatch them out and we raise them in our ponds and stock all the rivers and waterways on the reservation here. Walleye is one of the main parts of the Ojibwe diet here on the reservation, and we like to keep that population up to a sustainable level for everybody to use. Once we capture the fish in the boat, so go out and pull them out of the nets, get their eggs out of them, and then we fertilize them with the males. In our jars, we put like 1.5 quarts to 2 quarts of eggs in each jar. Each quart holds about 120 to 150,000. We have a tube that goes in the middle that forces the water up from the bottom of the jar, makes the eggs roll inside the jar. They'll roll for about 21 days and they'll hatch out right about then. And that's when we'll take them and raise them in our ponds for 4 to 5 days. Pull them out of the ponds and stock those into the rivers. That's one of our main job here, is to supplement the natural reproduction of the walleye and the perch. People think that we're replacing the fish we take, we're also replacing the fish that others take. That's our main goal, to make sure that there's going to be fish here for the future generations.
Next, we head north to the Red Cliff Tribe to learn the cultural significance, harvesting, and processing methods of this important food source.
Hi, my name is Joseph DePerry, and I work for the Red Cliff Fish Company. I manage the day-to-day where fish is going to go in our freezers, or if it's going to be shipped out wholesale to other buyers. We try to process as much fish as we can and try to give it to the Red Cliff community, local grocery stores, other tribal food distribution centers. We have a little retail store. We always try to keep smoked fish up there. We have smoked whitefish and trout, some dips that go really quick. Along with that, we also have some merchandise. Fish comes in right off the boats. We grade the fish, what we're gonna process, decide how we're gonna come up with the finalized product, whether we want skin on, skin off fish, and whether we're gonna freeze it or sell it fresh. We have different machines to do a whole bunch of different tasks. We have machines that will take the scales off, machines that will cut the fillets for you, machines that will take the pin bones off of the fish as well. If we don't protect this natural resource, we're not gonna have it. I believe Red Cliff is just a little gem in northern Wisconsin. I mean, if it wasn't for this lake, our people wouldn't be living here on this land. If you're ever in Bayfield, stop in Red Cliff at the Red Cliff Fish Company.
Next, we head to Lac Courte Oreille to meet with a tribal conservation officer and learn the importance of protecting our natural resources.
I'm Sergeant Aaron DeBroa. I'm a game warden with the Lac Courte Oreille Conservation Department. Now, I deal with every type of wildlife we have here in Wisconsin, but then that can change in a moment. We might have someone stranded on the water in a boat, run into someone having a bad day doing something they shouldn't be. That's where we got to intervene. A lot of people don't understand that tribal land is almost private. A lot of people think it's open to do whatever you please, and that's not the case. My culture, anything you do now, you want to make sure you have good, lasting impact on the next 7 generations after you. It's part of my way of life. I want to be here to protect that, making sure it's still around when my kids come of age and start hunting and fishing and doing all the same thing. As Native American people, you're always taught to provide for not only yourself, but your family, your elders, the young, your whole community. We want to make sure we sustain and protect those resources, that they'll last those next 7 generations.
For our next stop, we meet up with the Stockbridge-Munsee tribe at their teaching garden and learn of their efforts to provide healthier foods.
My name is Maria. I am the farm manager for the Stockbridge-Munsee Community's tribal farm. So the tribal farm was born out of a strategic tribal plan, and one of those initiatives was food sovereignty and creating greater food access for the community here on the reservation. So currently we are growing on a 6-acre location where we are actively growing food on 4 acres of that. We do use traditional Mohican Three Sisters gardening methods where we grow in a mound, fertilize with fish emulsion as a nod to traditional methods of burying fish in the mounds as a fertilizer. We grow our Lenape blue corn, our Munsee beans, and a Boston marrow squash. Annually, we are providing about 14,000 pounds of food for the community. Our surplus food is distributed to our elder and child care facilities throughout the reservation so that they can get fresher local food right here at the farm. Food that's available, that's fresh right here on the reservation gives people an option to be able to eat healthy. If you're ever traveling through Bowler, Wisconsin, come check out the farm.
Continuing our journey, we head west to the St. Croix Chippewa to gain insight into their efforts to revitalize, protect, and preserve wild rice.
My name's Jeremy Bloomquist. I'm the Land and Water Resource Manager for the St. Croix Chippewa Indians of Wisconsin. I do water monitoring for surface water, wild rice projects, fisheries projects, some forestry. Wild rice is a very important staple of the tribe, and Clam Lake is one of the biggest producers of wild rice. Most of the rice out here on Clam Lake, where it is doing well, is the areas where there's less development. We'll have nearly 300 acres of wild rice on a good year. In the fall, the rice produces a seed, and the seed then falls into the water. It slowly works its way down into the sediment. It'll start to germinate following spring. The plant will grow up to the surface, and then it goes into the floating leaf stage, so the plant will actually float on the surface for a few weeks until it starts to emerge and produce a flower, and then the resulting seed at the end for harvest. We do some reseeding projects every year, try to pick places that either have historically had wild rice or are struggling to have a harvestable crop. We will then go out in a canoe or boat, and we use a rate of approximately 50 pounds per acre, and we'll reseed out in that particular area. That way we have a seed bed that's developed with multiple years worth of seed.
When we add that seed bank, we're helping that lake fill in those areas. Bottom line, reseeding is important for lakes like this that have seen this decline.
Starting in around 2009 on Clam Lake, tribal members started to notice a decline in the wild rice. Studies began to see what the problem was and determined that the common carp were affecting not only the wild rice, but other vegetation in the lake. Their feeding activity was uprooting plants. By 2009, we were down to 80 acres of wild rice remaining from normally 300 acres on Clam Lake. This resulted in the removal of almost 700,000 pounds of carp. In 2015, we started to reseed, and so we started to see rice come back and be able to open the lake back up to harvest again. Restoration is key for us in some of these places, but also protecting and making sure that these other areas are taken care of.
Next, we meet up with the Oneida Nation and learn of their efforts to reintroduce the buffalo, once a staple food for the native people.
My name is Michelle Danforth Anderson, and I'm with the Oneida Nation. The Oneidas, we have been involved in agriculture since the beginning of time. It's actually part of our creation story. So when the Oneidas moved to this territory in 1823, the Oneidas once again cleared land, started to become farmers. And it wasn't until the 1990s when we received our first buffalo. And ever since then, we have been growing, and we have over 150 head at this time. When you actually go and visit the buffalo, it's this really cool feeling. You just see them, and they're very large. So it's like this great feeling of like, wow, look how big they are. We have an overlook, so you get to watch them walk around the field, tend to their younger calves in the spring, and it's just a really nice feeling. It's a really cool place to visit. So when you come to the Buffalo Overlook, it's kind of this neat little place that's just off the side of the road, and you don't want to touch the wires because they are electrified. But it is a really cool place to actually go up to the overlook, see the buffalo out in the fields, and it's kind of really cool because there's just these like really cool, majestic animals. And the thing about them is that buffalo are wild. One of the very important things for us is about how we care for animals. So we have invested a lot of money into infrastructure so that they can go to different fields. So you can actually take your car and actually just drive right down the road, and they might be on the corner lot. So it's really cool to see the buffalo out in the fields. If you are driving around the Green Bay area, the Buffalo Overlook is a must-see. It is free. It's literally a couple miles from Green Bay, and you won't be disappointed.
We next visit the Ho-Chunk Nation to meet up with Chef Elena Terry and learn of her work utilizing native foods with a modern culinary flair.
Hana Chani Karagiwi, Bochankrajra Hahemani Winga Hingaide, Nagamaikhari Raja, Elena Terry Hingaide. I am the executive chef and founder of a nonprofit called Wild Berries. Wild Berries is a nonprofit organization that focuses on what food as medicine means to us as members of the Ho-Chunk Nation, as Indigenous peoples. So we have two subgroups of the wild berries. One is the baby berries and the other is the garden berries. The baby berries are a group of youth who come and learn interpersonal communication by being front of the house servers when we have high-end meals. And the garden berries, which originated as elementary age tribal youth that came to the garden with their parents and have not stopped coming and showing up for these events. As Wild Berries, we started supporting small community gardens where they could harvest food if they needed fresh vegetables, produce. So we have to support our producers. The holistic food system has to be advocated for, not just one component of it. And it really is so much more than creating a dish of food. I live down the road from a confirmed archaeological dig site that says we had raised garden beds over 1,000 years ago. That raised garden bed helped feed a 20 square mile village. We never lived far away from our food. We never had it brought to us in that way. We all contributed. We were all part of this beautiful traditional food system. So bringing some of those practices back, bring back those blood memories, like being in these spaces that seem familiar that you may have never been in before. When you share a meal with people, a meal that's cooked with love, and intention and prayers, and you're honoring the people who grew that corn, who harvested the wild rice, or went out and hunted for this meat, like it is a different kind of meal. There is a different meaning to it.
Our next destination takes us to the Lac du Flambeau fish hatchery, highlighting their efforts to maintain a healthy fish population.
My name is Hunter Mayo, Lac du Flambeau Tribal Fish Hatchery Manager. My responsibility as fish hatchery manager is to ensure that the Lac du Flambeau fish hatchery runs as efficiently as possible. Stocking tribal waters with walleyes, to muskies, to brown trout, to perch, a variety of species. So the basic life form of any fish out there is the fry. After fish spawn in the spring and release their eggs, about a week's time, fry will hatch out. After the fry hatch, they'll be born with an egg sac. They'll absorb that egg sac. They'll begin to swim. And at that point, we will measure and collect the fry, stock them out into the ponds. After a month's period of time, they'll reach approximately 2.5 inches in length, which will be considered a fingerling. We will keep till they reach extended growth, which is 6 to 10 inches. Last year, we released 50,245 extended growth walleyes. We want to enhance our fishery and support our fishery by extensive stocking. The purpose of the fish hatchery is to use our fish studies to deem whether that lake has a natural reproduction occurring. If the lake doesn't have natural reproduction, that's where we'll implement more stocking. So in the springtime, we'll conduct the population estimate where we'll set pike nets for X number of days. We will collect the walleyes, we'll fin clip them. That'll give us a fish to acre ratio, which we can determine how many fish are per acre in the lake. My whole life, I wanted to work for fish hatchery. I love the fisheries. It's my life to be able to give back. This fishery will be there for the 7th generation forward for our kids, grandkids, their kids, and so on and so forth, that we ensure that the fish are there for not only tribal members, but non-members as well. That takes a deep meaning in my heart because our people went through a great struggle to secure our treaty rights in the 1980s and early 90s. My father and my mother were in the front lines, so it's a great meaning to me.
As we conclude our journey through the rich traditions and vibrant efforts of Wisconsin tribes, forests to the lakes, each tribe has unique stories and practices, showcasing a deep connection to the land and a commitment to cultural heritage. Thank you for joining us on this enlightening exploration. Until next time, keep celebrating and honoring the voices of the tribes that shape Wisconsin's identity.